what's up everyone, welcome to the new video of Flutter. Last time we learned about some here and there topic regarding the Flutter, but today we're gonna learn about something special.
So the topic for today is something that each developer reaches when diving deeper into Flutter and Flutter widgets, getting some more complicated stuff to do. You will reach a moment where widgets get quite big. And in that moment, you want some structure. You want some structure. And one way of doing that is using state management in Flutter. Well, state management actually is the way how to handle logic separately from UI.
Okay.
I think that's the way to explain it. And what we want to reach is the moment that the UI is only updating depending on state information. So logic will be kept in one place, easy to maintain. And besides that, we remove logic from our Flutter widgets.
Can you give a simple example, like in any kind of widget or something like that? What are the states and what are the logic for that?
Well, maybe I would use the basic example project we have in Flutter.
Wanna dive into the code?
Can dive into code.
Let's go. Okay, something is already there.
Yeah, what you can see here is actually the basic project. So we have a screen, we have an app bar with the title, and the main logic here is to increment the number we see here on the screen. And so what we want to get is every time we press on a button, fire a state, and the UI is updating depending on the value it receives.
Okay, so in this page, what are the states and what are the logics?
The state would be something like screen update, for example, a screen update state. The event for it would be press button, for example.
Pressing event. Okay.
Yeah, press button event. And every time we hit the press button, we fire an event, get the logic processed in the logic component.
Increasing the value is logic then.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So where is the code? Oh,
there it is.
Here it comes.
Okay. So what we see here. Yeah, first I maybe say something to the project itself. Usually we have only one file in our lib, that's main. And in the main, we also have the screen. I did here, just for having a cleaner overview of that, I created a separate home file where we actually do everything regarding the home screen.
Okay. So there is already that increment thing. But
exactly.
What do we want to change in that case?
What we want to do is now to get rid of logic, which is changing the counter value. Like this increment counter here.
Okay, there is the logic.
Exactly. It's as simple as that, just increasing the counter every time we trigger the on-pressed method in our floating action button. So actually pressing the button.
Okay.
Yeah. But as you can see here, in our stateful widget in that case, we need to hit set state every time we do changes to the counter.
Okay, so say this is also changing the state.
Exactly.
So it is also kind of state management, or?
It is kind of state management, exactly. But what we can see here is we have somehow our widget, and the widget is not only about UI stuff, it's also about parts of logic. And if it gets very complicated in future apps, need to maintain very carefully. And
okay. It is only for the bigger project, or?
It's also for the small projects. They don't need to be very big, but you have a big plus when you can maintain the code more easily or extend or expand the code.
Okay, so let's start then. What we're gonna start with?
What we're gonna start with is basic structure we need, and the one we need is the BloC. That's currently Qubit, of course, but it shows the way BloC or Qubit works, that we have our UI, our logic component, in this case, the qubit itself or
all.
BloC.
I don't like this UI. Get that black text in the black background.
I guess because it's dark mode.
That's dark mode.
Let's see. I love dark mode, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's good for eyes, I guess.
Yeah, much better, much better. But we can summarize it that way. Our UI is triggering events, here called functions. Qubit and BloC are similar in behavior, but what I want to introduce is BloC itself, not the qubit, because we don't want to trigger functions directly, not via events. So just a side note, if you want to work with a qubit, it's very useful for very simple tasks, but not with tasks that need kind of flow control. Yeah, that's it for the qubit. I will focus on BloC.
Okay, then what I understand from this image is UI sends some kind of event to the qubit or the BloC, and there is something already called state, that is our data. So depending on the event from UI, the data changes and it is sent back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Every time we trigger the BloC component, it does everything, manages the data, gets it finished completely.
Okay.
So what we only do is then we push the result via the states to the UI. UI is just taking the result and rebuilding only.
Okay, so it makes cleaner. The logic side is always in the BloC. There is always a separate data. The UI is also just taking a data.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with the.
Exactly. And focus then on building the UI only. You don't need to handle stuff additionally.
Okay, that makes it somehow clear. So we're gonna use BloC then. Okay, let's start then.
Okay. So first we want to get rid of logic here and the counter. What we need for BloC is first of all the BloC component. So I will put it into a BloC folder first and call it home BloC. That's what we need.
Okay, that's a BloC.
Oh, and besides that, of course, we need to get BloC inside our project. So this is what we need. Flutter underscore BloC. This package, you can add it via Flutter pub add. Or you can just add the line manually into the YAML file.
And then you can do Flutter pop-get.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's important. So first of all, we create our home BloC.
Okay.
And what we need for that is to call the BloC component. As we could see here, right in the moment. He needs an event and state object.
Okay.
Or classes in that case. So we need to create our event class here. Say event first, or call it directly home event, so we know what it will be like in the future. And we call it here home state, just to keep the names clear.
Is there any particular naming conventions for this kind of BloC, event, state?
It would be nice to put event at the end of the class name or object name and state at the end as well, so you can simply distinguish them. For BloC, also the same. Put BloC at the end.
Okay.
So, as we can see, we need home event and home state. So let's create them. And
everything is class by.
Exactly. So first of all, let's create the home event. This is first we need to create an abstract class, not the class directly. It's very important if we want to introduce more different events, but want to tell BloC it's of the same event type in general.
If somebody doesn't know, how would you describe abstract class in the easy way?
An abstract class is a class you actually don't use. So use as an object, work with it. You use it to structure code, to kind of collect similarities, for example, in one class, and only specific parts in extended classes.
Okay.
So first we have our home event here, and just add the constructor, of course. That's currently mainly it.
Okay.
But what I recommend to add additionally is equatable.
Okay, that's also something new.
Exactly. First, we need equatable. Just to remind you, we also put equatable as a dependency in our project. That's important. Why equatable? Well, BloC works that way that it doesn't want to trigger states multiple times if the state is actually the same state. In Dart, we unfortunately need to check multiple things like references of the object, the type of the object, the number of attributes, and if the attributes have the same value. And additionally, we need to check hash code of the created object. You can see here what equatable does. It allows us to override the equal operator, and we can see that it's checking runtime type, it's checking for identity, it's checking for the hash code. So yeah, we need all of that stuff, but that's code we don't want to implement all the time, every time we create objects that will be paired to each other in the future.
Okay, that's complex. If somebody doesn't understand, then you can just remember that you have to use equatable in the BloC.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the easiest way to actually allow equality checks in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we need to do to use equatable here is just to tell equatable what we need. And what it needs to know is the list of parameters. Of course, we don't have attributes in this class, so don't add any parameter here.
The event.
Exactly.
So if you have to explain again in a simplest way, then how would you explain event?
I mean, event is like a trigger, like an action. For example, you want to switch the light on in the room.
Okay.
You just
switching the light on is event.
Switch the light on, and this is triggering the process.
And I can understand from that switching a light on is an event, and the state might be on and off. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's easy to. Okay. So in this case, we don't have any parameters.
Exactly.
Can you give an example where we might need a parameter?
Of course. In that case, we need to extend our home event class now. As you could see before, I just imported our home event. And let's create a specific one we need later. We need an increment event for the counter, right, in the future. And this one, of course, extends home event. So, as you can remember, as you may remember, in the home screen, we use a counter value, in that case, to increment the value of the counter. An event is only the trigger, so increment counter event wouldn't have, in that case, a parameter. But if we want, for example, to set the value we want to type in, for example, in a text field, we can say, or call it set counter. I was thinking more into the future. So we want to set the value of the counter instead of only incrementing it. So we need to pass the information the BloC needs to update it accordingly.
Okay.
So in that case, I would create an integer counter value. Yeah, value. And let's create the field for that. The constructor. So that's actually mainly it. But
props.
We need to add the props for equatable. In this case, we first, in case we have any props from the parent, we need to add them as well.
Okay.
And of course, our new counter value.
Okay.
So that's how a class would maybe like an event.
Event.
But we need to put event, right?
Okay, that is a naming convention. Described earlier. Okay, that looks good. If we have to explain this extend thing to a new user or new programmer, then how would you explain?
The extend thing. Didn't we do that before? Like describing that we want to keep similarities together, or a general type for specific classes.
That was the definition for abstract class. The class in
for abstract class. Yeah.
Just extends the abstract class.
Yeah.
It's from the abstract class or the parent class.
Yeah, we want to specify a certain behavior or certain attributes depending on the case.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Okay, event in general. Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all for this video, or we will explain more about BloC in our next video, probably about the state and the BloC and how do we use that thing in our code. For this video, that's all. See you in another video.
Then next time.